Okay, video number 2. This one's going to look a little bit more in depth on what you're going to make for Tech Project 5. Your goal for that project is to make a working smart object-based mockup file. Now, if you go online and you could go on Google, you can search for PSD mockup files, and there's a million of them for free out there that you can download and poke around in and try out. This is one of those. I didn't make this, but I'm going to make one in a minute. It's going to look a little cheesier, but it'll be fast, hopefully. But I wanted to demonstrate exactly how this works. The goal of a mockup is to make life easier for yourself or the next person in line who needs to create something from scratch or needs to modify an image to preview or view iterations of something. For example, in this case, producing a physical soda can with graphics on it can be pretty expensive for a one-off kind of thing. But if a client wants to see what it looks like, or you want to say, you know, I designed this, I'm not going to actually go and get it printed on a soda can, but I want to see what it looks like. That's the purpose of a mockup. So your goal for this project is to make something that functions like this kind of a file does. So if you look at the layers panel, you can see there's a bunch of stuff in here. There's a background, there's the can itself, there's adjustments that happen to it or that can be done to it just to make it look a little more realistic. And then the commonality between all these different mockups that there should be is there should be a mockup layer in there. This says edit me, and the user, the regular person who's going into this, or yourself, the purpose of saving yourself time is you don't have to go into all this stuff down here. All the work that's been done, you don't want to do that every single time. You just want to say, okay, I'll double click on that smart object and it gives me this. So let's make a real quick edit and just see how fast it is to have something going there. Let's put a solid color over the top and let's drag a logo out here and let's hit save. We jump back over into our mockup file and our changes are there, including a complex transformation, lighting, potentially reflections, everything that needs to happen to have this look like it's actually on that can is done. Now, it's not perfect. I'm not a huge fan of this particular mockup. It's kind of basic in terms of just being a can. And another thing, don't get confused when you look up some of these mockup files online. If you do that, some of them, they literally made the can from scratch, painting it out of nothing in Photoshop. That's not your goal with Tech Project 5, and hopefully that's clear in the instructions, but just find a photo of something that you can make a mock-up in. So that's what we'll look at next. Let me close this guy, get rid of that. Get rid of that. And look at this. So random low-res picture snapshot of some pickup truck, a moving truck, box truck, kind of a U-Haul type thing. And we're going to go from this into something like this, but we want to make it to where we can really quickly and easily change things out. If a client says, hey, I'd like to hire you to design the graphics on my company's moving trucks, you want to be able to show them what it's going to look like before actually committing to the thousands of dollars it's going to take to paint those trucks or wrap them or whatever. And so in this case, you make a mockup file because inevitably whatever you make, the client's going to say, you know what, I like that font up there, but can we make it something a little less swirly? And you can really quickly and easily do that with a mockup file because you just double click over here, jump into the smart object part of it, and we can come in and we can change text. So let's grab that and let's make it, I don't know, I'm randomly going to pick something here, whatever that is. It doesn't fit, but you'll get the idea. When we hit save, jump back over, it updates and changes. Okay, so let's undo that, save it again, and then I'm going to go back in here and let's walk through the process of making this. So I'm going to turn off everything that I've done. This is the original photo with no edits to it. All right, I had a little computer crash there, but I'm back with the recording. So just to point out, the next step would be to remove all that text from off the truck, or remove all the image off a screen, or the graphics off a poster, whatever it is that you're making for your mock-up. You need to start with a clean slate. So there's going to be some masking, some adjustments, some cloning and healing and whatever it takes to clean that up. So pro tip, if you're starting on Tech Project 5, work with the simplest, cleanest backplate image you can so that you don't have to go through the pain of removing everything on that. But I've done that on this one just so you see. Let me turn this layer on and off. I've got everything kind of cloned out, so we can go from here. You don't want to watch me do all that work. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is prepare for my smart object to be placed in here. And the way that works is there's a couple ways we can do it. We could place an image like a JPEG or something and then convert it to a smart object. But the problem is that the JPEG doesn't support layers. And so if we save a JPEG as a smart object inside this PSD, we can never put more into that smart object than what the original file format supported. So I don't recommend using that method. Don't place an image or a graphic into your PSD and then make it a smart object. Block off the area where your graphic or your content is going to go, and then place stuff inside that newly created smart object. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to use the marquee tool just to make a box. It doesn't really matter, but I'm looking at this long rectangular face of that truck, and I want to make something that is kind of like that, but not, it doesn't have to be in perspective. So I'm just going to make this long, narrow rectangle. I'm totally guessing. Exact proportions don't matter for this particular task. If you're doing something like a device screen where you know the exact measurements or you can Google them, then go ahead and do that. But for this, it doesn't really matter. I need to make a new layer because that new layer is where this is going to live. And I'll just fill it with a color. Control backspace on a PC keyboard will fill with your background color. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not going to stay that way. So we'll just deselect that. And then right off the bat, I'm going to go convert to smart object. I don't want to make any adjustments to this at all. And the reason for that is because what that's going to give me is inside my smart object, this nice non-perspective, non-transform, non-adjusted base canvas to work on. So let's close that. Now let's go ahead and do the transformations and whatever else needs to happen to make this thing work. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and warp this thing to fit. So we'll go ahead and drag it in on the sides. Let's drag it down on the bottom a little bit. And then for perspective, hold down the Control key or Command. And let's drag this to match the perspective where we want it to go. So I'm not going to fuss with it too much here. We'll just get it kind of close and say that's good enough. All right, so we've got it. Let's hit that and let's open up the smart object again and try putting something into it. I don't need the white there anymore. That was literally just a placeholder, so I'll delete it in a second. But I'm going to add some text now. Just going to click and we'll just use the placeholder text for now for preview purposes. So we'll put Lorem Ipsum in there. I can delete this white layer, hit save. And then when we come back in, notice that even though I put it into the smart object with no adjustments, no perspective or anything, it comes in transformed already to fit the perspective. We could put a blend mode on that, maybe like an overlay, maybe a little bit of opacity, and it's going to look pretty realistic for this. You know, don't look too close. I'm just rushing through it, but spend some time on yours, make it look good, of course. But getting that in there was really quick and easy, right? Let's go ahead and jump back over here. And now let's put something in there different. We can, you know, coming up with something on the spot is always hard. What should I say? Truck. Graphic. So creative. So we just changed that. We hit save and jump back in, and we don't have to redo transformations or effects or adjustments or anything. It's just there. It's automatic and it's so easy. That's the whole purpose of a smart object based mockup file, is that it's easy. You don't want things to be difficult. So once I've got this one done over here, let's go ahead and make it work on the other faces. And as I talked about in my previous video, you can have multiple instances of the same smart object, which makes life super easy for this sort of thing. So I'm going to duplicate this. Let's go Command J. We'll duplicate our smart object layer, and then let's move it over, here. Let's go Command T to transform that. Where'd it go? Photoshop is not happy. I'm going to pause the recording and hopefully be able to come back and finish this. All right, well, this is the third time I've tried recording this video, and every time I try to do free transform on the second instance, Photoshop freezes on me. And so I'm not going to keep doing that, but take my word for it. If you're not having computer problems, it works fantastic. We could just transform this instance of this graphic to fit on this space of the truck. Using the same methodology, we would just go ahead and transform that, warp it, adding the adjustments, blend modes, whatever we need to get it to work. And then what we're going to do is let's just clean this up a little bit. We'll go ahead and group this. And ideally, what you want to remember is that you don't want your users to be messing around in stuff that's going to be difficult, or that's going to run the risk of crashing the file, messing things up in terms of like the work that you've done. And so we're going to call this don't edit or something along those lines. And then we can take our smart object. I'm just going to turn this one off for now. Let's take our smart object, and I'm going to alt drag this thing up to the top. So there's a copy of it in both places. I can turn the visibility of this one off. I don't need it turned on for visibility. The only reason it's going to sit here is so I can name it and say edit here. Okay. And so because they're the same, they're just instances of the same content, edit here, and this group that says don't edit, you can have as much stuff going on inside of that folder as you want. And all they need to do is double click on that, go in here, and they can change whatever about this that they want. They can make it anything. Let's just change the text a little bit to be a little bit red, pink, whatever. Hit save, jump over here, and it's done. So you want it to be simple and easy for people to use, yourself included. Then just follow those steps. All right, I'm going to get out of this file that keeps causing my computer to crash. Let's just close that and close that. And here's another sample, just a very nicely finished project that a student did last semester. So you see what's going on. There's the original photo. If you can find a photo that's kind of like this, it's an empty canvas, so to speak. It's going to make life a little easier as you work. So inside of that, we've got a bunch of stuff going on. This is all the work that's done to make it look realistic in that spot. But regular people don't need to get into that. Even advanced Photoshop users don't need to get into that. It's not necessary, because the purpose of the smart object is so that I can just come in and say the logo. I want to edit the logo. Let's go ahead, right click, not right click, double click. And I want to change this to, instead of hooray, say, I don't know, let me get out of that tool. I didn't mean to do that. Oh no, what's going on? Oh, I didn't even look. This is a graphic, not text. Okay, well, we'll just do my old fallback. We'll go ahead and make a new blank layer. We'll make these some ASU socks. We'll drag that out here. And let's get rid of that. And maybe scale that down just a little bit. Like this. We'll save it. Ah, I found a mistake. Okay, this is, I told you before, if you create a smart object out of a JPEG or a PNG or something that doesn't support layers, then it's just not going to support layers. It's not going to work. So I don't have the functionality to use this smart object to its full potential. So be careful that you're not doing that. In order for this to work, I'm going to have to merge these down. And let's just delete that. Now, let me save. Yes, okay. So because it was a PNG, the student used this Hooray logo PNG file. That's the best that I can do with putting stuff into it is to use a PNG. So just keep that in mind when you're making your stuff. But as that works, this is going to just drop this stuff out here with a color adjustment, perspective, some warping, some opacity, blend mode, different things. I might want to change the blend mode for that really bright red up here on the box. But that's the kind of thing that you can build into a mockup file, is the functionality to just quickly and easily handle all sorts of complex stuff. Okay. Anyhow, that's the idea with the tech project. I'm sure you guys will have questions. I'd love to see your progress as you're working on it. So definitely reach out on Slack and let me know. We can set up office hours and stuff like that, but can't wait to see what you guys make.